It is time to confront your control freak. Today, we're going to talk about letting go and why it's critical for your vision to get good at surrender, to get good at allowing, and to put your hands up and release what's in them when it comes to your business, your personal life, and your direction. Now, you're going to have to buckle up because this is not going to be one where I pull punches. I want to hit you directly, and I want to hit you with a lot of love. Welcome back to the Get Out of Your Own Way show. I'm your host, Aaron Velke. This is a subject that I have grappled with for a long time. It's something that has taken many confrontations of self to really understand. And in this dialogue today, this podcast today, I want to reach you right where you sit to give a message directly to you. I'm going to appeal to your heart. I'll appeal to your mind. And most of all, I want to appeal to your action. This conversation is about change. All of getting out of your own way is about change. And look, I'm lucky. I get to talk about change. I get to talk about vision. Our program, Living Vision, is dedicated to CEOs of high net worth companies, really accelerated enterprises who are doing some magical stuff and have found themselves ready for change. Maybe that's you. Regardless of whether that's you today or whether it is in your future, this conversation of change is one I have all the time with them. And I get to relay all of that information, that wisdom back to you because I get to learn a lot from what they're dealing with. And I get to share that with you as we go through principles of change. I also get to talk rather aggressively and assertively in front of stages all across the country. I'm currently out of town. I'm in Snowbird, Utah, and I'll get to talk about vision later today. And the more I talk about vision, the more I have to talk about this idea of the void, the antithesis of what most of us think we need. The void is where we let go. The void is where things go to be released. The void is where we take those checks that we wrote. Yeah, those obligations that you keep saying yes to, the commitments that you keep making, or the ones that you have no real value from, and we get to shed them. The void is so important, and letting go is your pathway to more. If you want more, you're going to need less. And as much as it might pain you to go through the letting go process, it will set you free. And I've got plenty of evidence. You can ask me how I know from my story and the hundreds of people that I've coached. I can tell you that letting go is the way. It's the answer to many of the questions that you're probably asking as you navigate maybe business revenue struggles. Maybe it's personal health and fitness goal challenges. Maybe it's mindset and this belief that you can't get where you want to go. Letting go is the answer. So let's start with identifying where this all prompts and where this begins, right? There's always a catalyst, something that snaps and reminds us that there's more out there, right? There's more that you're after. You want more. I promise you, you want more. If you're listening to this, you want more. It's the 4-letter word we all want. I love asking that question when I get on stage. It's something I used to open with all the time. When I ran my financial education company, I'd say, hey, what's the 4-letter word we all want? And you'd hear cash and love and time and all these things. And those are great answers. But the definitive answer is more. M-O-R-E. You want more, which means that if you want more, you want change. Because you can't have the same and get something different. So if you want more, you want change. And when you make a commitment to change, something internally starts to click. It's like a clock that has been dead that gets a new battery. And that battery starts that second hand. Click, click, click. It doesn't move fast, but it moves in regularity, in sequence. And you can predict it. And as the wheels of change start to turn in that clock, the gears, they start to connect and dial each other in, you'll start to feel pressure. Maybe friction. It's possible that you'll feel uncomfortable. In more likelihood than not, you will not enjoy the process of change. That's okay. I'm not here to make it soft for you. I'm here to make it real for you and to make it simple for you. There's a difference. Change is hard, but you can choose change or change will choose you. And today we're going to break down 4 reasons why you're not letting go when it's time to change. If you want more, the answer is less. This idea of change for many of us, and this was my story, was always about force. I'm just going to keep forcing my way through this. I'm gritty. I'm tough. I'm strong. So I'm just going to keep going. And whether your business does 500 grand a year or 5 million a year or 50 million a year, it doesn't matter. Change is the same for all of us. It's prompted by a degree of pain, a degree of dissatisfaction often, and it can be a tremendous catalyst to realize what's going on. Now, sometimes change can be catalyzed by a vision. And that's what we really work on with CEOs is to say, hey, look, let's build you something so that you don't need to be prompted by pain. But often underneath that is a dissatisfaction. And when we're dissatisfied, these 4 beliefs, these 4 things that you say to yourself, stories you tell yourself, are going to keep you right where you are. If you do not change it, you choose it. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I also hate it the most because it reminds me of the problem that if I continually do something, then I'm choosing it. So let's go through these 4 things. And what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention very closely to where you feel tension in your chest when I say this stuff. Because if you feel it there, you probably need to lean into it a little bit more, or call me, call us. Let's set up a call. We can tell you all about how we can help. These are your job to fix. Now, even with a coach, they're still your job. You just have guidance and mentorship along the way. But these 4 things are present in every single circumstance where you are saying something to the effect of, I want more. If you are holding on and white knuckling your life, these 4 are present. Number 1, no one can do it as good as me. Now, you might not say it this way, but I bet you think it, don't you? There are times where you're like, man, I'm really good at this. I'm really, really awesome at this. And how can I find someone to replace me? Maybe you've gone and hired somebody to take over your spot. And maybe you realize that there's a huge gap. There's a massive space between where you are and where you want someone to be to take over for you. But that belief is haunting you. That belief is restricting you. That belief is keeping you from doing 3 things. And we call this dad mode as we go through one of our focus frameworks. Dad mode is delete, automate, delegate. It's a framework that is sequential. So if you can't delete it, then you automate it. If you can't automate it, then you delegate it. But if you have this belief in mind, no one can do it as good as me, you're not going to go through that structure. You're going to waffle. You're probably going to be on the fence about what to do. And you're probably going to retain a responsibility or an activity or a role that no longer serves you. And probably more importantly, that you don't like in the first place. I bet you have things on your plate, responsibilities, meetings, obligations that you're tired of. I know you do, because we all do. If you're on the path to growth, this is normal. What's not normal, let me say it this way. What's not tolerable is you holding on. And if you're saying something like no one can do it as good as me, one of 2 things is happening. You're either fixated that you are the solution and refusing to budge on that mindset, or you are not very good at training. And you might need some of both to get out of your own way. You might need a little medicine in both of those areas. That's important. That no one can do it better than you is mostly bullshit. There might be some things that you are great at. There might be some things that no one can do as well as you yet. There might be some things that you need to do because you enjoy them, you love them, and you're great at them. That's the sweet spot, right? We don't want to get rid of those things. If you love it and you're great at it, keep on going. But otherwise, it's time to let it go. And letting go, again, looks like that framework. Delete, automate, delegate. We've got some tools to help with that. If you really need them, there's plenty of tools online to navigate that as well. I highly recommend that you take some time to write out what those tasks are and what you say they are, and maybe how you break it down. Maybe it takes 3 people. Maybe it takes 4. Maybe it takes automation and delegation and deletion for it to really get off your plate, or you're going to have to let go of that at some point, or you're going to stay stuck. And man, I can tell you it's a resentment 101 recipe for your team, for your business. And eventually you're going to feel like, dude, I do not like working in my own business. And that is not why we built business. That's not why we did it. Okay. Let's talk briefly about number 2. I loved it. I used to love doing this. What's wrong? Man, I used to love doing this. Look, there have been so many parts of my entrepreneurship career, and coming up on 10 years soon, that I loved. I absolutely loved. And I don't anymore. And there's this story in my mind that comes up often. Maybe you're grappling with it, where because I loved something, I have to continue to love it. It's almost like I've not given myself permission to grow on, to outgrow something. And in that space, in that area of life, if I continue to hold on to something when I'm not in love with it anymore, I actually dishonor it. I restrain it and I restrain myself. And if that's happening in business, you're restraining your business. If you used to love running webinars and workshops and doing all that, and you don't anymore, don't do it. Don't do it, please. For everybody's sake. God, there's nothing more dissatisfying than watching somebody that doesn't love what they do. There's nothing more dissatisfying. They're just punching the clock. They are just checking in. Woo! They're like, they are not here. I can tell there's just an energy to it. You know, here's a place where you can see it. So I used to run these workshops for kids. We, in Money Club, we ran these programs where we would take we built a sport out of money, and we would take this experience to schools, run this game. It was electric. We'd had volunteers from Fortune 500 companies and all over the neighborhoods come in. We would play this game, and then we'd do 9 sessions of content, and then we played the game at the end. It was behavioral economics in its infancy. And this game was so electric. It was so much fun. And then I would go teach and running workshops with these young adults. Sometimes they were as early as 5th grade, sometimes 9th, 12th. But we got to talk about money. It was amazing. And when you're around kids, especially like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, you know, they're still figuring out people in a lot of ways and haven't formed their own sort of way of disconnecting. They could sniff out people that don't care, people that aren't authentic. It's actually really fascinating to be around young adults because they can sniff out inauthentic action. And I used to love it. I loved it. And I don't now. And I also knew that I had to grow. I knew that I had to go past that. I knew if the organization was going to impact more people, I had to let it go. It was very difficult to do that. But, you know, I lived in point number 1. No one can do it better than me until we found an amazing director of education that, you know, had helped us along the way and was ready to come on full time. And shit, I think he did a better job than I did. Much better. I had the energy to like speak and motivate. He had the like structure to discipline and educate. Very, very different. But as much as I loved it, I don't presently love it. And you can ask yourself this question: do I presently love what this task is? Again, if we're thinking about your business, there's responsibilities, obligations, and tasks that you probably at some point loved. Maybe you used to love doing the sales and you don't anymore. Great. Don't dishonor sales. Don't dishonor the people that are buying your product. Let's move you on. Maybe you used to love, I don't know, designing content or sitting down and recording and filming. Cool. If you don't love it, don't do it. Find someone else. It's time to let go. And when you want more, the answer is less. You're going to have to shed some of this stuff and just be ready to evolve. It's really critical that you're able to do that. And again, you basically hold back the entire organization. You're like a giant Hoover Dam. I don't know much about the Hoover Dam, but I know it stops a lot of water from getting to the wrong places. And sometimes we just got to let the dam break. You just got to let it go and like let it all fall out and fall down. Often the fear of that will create big problems. So it's time to let go. It's time to let go. It's time to let go. If you loved it and you don't love it anymore, let it go. Same is true. Business, health, relationships. Maybe you used to love, I don't know, watching movies at night. You don't watch it anymore. Don't do it anymore. Fine. It's cool. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's an old friendship. Maybe it's the way you used to dress. I dress very different now than when I did in high school, right? No one ever would second guess that. It wouldn't be like, hey, Aaron, you got to dress the same way you did in high school, man. You can't go on from that. Like I used to love dressing a certain way. Now I love dressing a different way. Cool. Leave me alone. Let me dress the way I want, but allow me to grow and change. Those internal dialogues of, you know, I loved this, or I love this sweater. My mom gave this to me when I was 6. Like that kind of stuff just holds you back. I'm all for nostalgia and keeping solid memories, but it's really important we can let go. Letting go is the way to lift. Okay, let's talk about number 3. This is a really tough one to say to you, but you need to hear it. Part of the reason that you hold on to things that should not be in your life, in your business, responsibilities and obligations, commitments, is that you are afraid that you won't be as good at whatever is next. That when you start something new, that when you grow to the next level, that when you accelerate out, you will not be as good. You won't be the celebrated guy. Your ego is the enemy right now. That something about what you're about to try will put you back into this fear that you are not good enough, that you are inadequate. There's a fear of inadequacy for us holding on to something that we've mastered. If you've mastered it, let it go. You can always come back to it. That's what mastery really allows. But when you're afraid to go to the next level and deal with whatever happens there, if you're afraid to set up a new level for yourself, new operations, new ideas, new identity, all these things, new responsibilities, new role, you're going to be a beginner. It's okay. I'm here to give you permission to be a beginner. You don't have to be the best at everything right away. If you've never been skiing, this is a mountain behind me. If you've never been skiing, but you're the best in the world at, I don't know, fucking skydiving, when you go ski, you don't expect to be as good as you are at skydiving on skis. You know you're a beginner. Act like one. Be curious. Be open. Put your ego away. Dock that thing at the cubby in the front and come into the class and get ready to learn. Class is in session. That piece of you is so flippin' important to be a beginner again. And if you're afraid that what you do next, that the responsibilities that you carry next are new for you, good. That means you're growing. That's the point. That is the point. So important. And not many people talk about it, especially not to business owners. Here's an example. If you are used to running your meetings, if you're used to running everything in your business, you're the checkpoint for everybody. And you step out of that, right? You're like, I want free time. I want time freedom. Okay, great. Let's own that you want that and understand what it means. You got to start cutting your demand. You have to start cutting that you're the access point and the decision maker for all these things. You got to put somebody in the middle, right? So you put somebody in the middle, and now you're going to know nothing about what to do with your time. You're going to freak out. Unless you've done some really deep vision work, you're not going to know at all what to do with your time. So you're quote unquote time freedom. And you know where you're going to go first? You're going to go back to where you are needed and an expert. Your ego is going to pull you right back into those meetings. You're going to meddle. You're going to fuck up what your COO is doing. You're going to bomb everybody. You're going to micromanage because that's what you know, right? And the new version of you has to do vision work, has to go sit in a cafe for 4 hours and imagine what's next for the company, what's coming in 3 years. You have to research, think about how AI plays a role, think about how market conditions, economic conditions, how personal conditions are going to change in 3 years and how that affects your business, to think about partnerships, strategies, channel partners. Like, you got to really, really dial in what your vision looks like. And you cannot go back to doing the operations. It's going to be new to just sit and think. It's going to be new to go slow. It's going to be new to be non-reactive, to build a vision, to guide the culture, to mentor and nurture the people in your business. Those are all going to be new traits. You're going to be probably bad at it. Buckle up. That's how we grow. That idea of becoming a visionary is so critical to allowing you to really expand and get more of what you want. But you're going to have to let go of some of these responsibilities and some of these patterns that are keeping you right where you are. So important, so important, so important. I could talk about it all day because we talk about it all day with clients. Hey, let's get you out. Hey, I know this is a fantastic, gargantuan organization, but if you want time freedom and you want to go impact all these people and fund operations and charities in other countries, if you want to really make a dent in your community, if you really want to make like a name for more than just your enterprise within your little bubble, we're going to enter a new terrain and you're going to be a beginner. Are you ready for that? And I know you're ready for that. You just got to hear it from somebody that can tell it to you straight. It's time to let go. Okay. Number 4. There's this sneaky little thing that creeps up on us when we're in change mode. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West, or, Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings. Like, there's this creepy little voice in the back of your head that maybe you've dealt with, maybe you've named. If you haven't, I encourage you to name it. Mine is named Bruce. That sneaky little voice that tells you, you're going to fail. There's just a voice that says, What if I'm wrong? What if I get it wrong? What if I fail? What if it doesn't go the way that I planned? What if? And it keeps you in this, I am not enough. I am not worthy of what I want mentality. That's the root of it. But what it sounds like is, it could, what if it messes everything up? It probably will, but you've got to trust yourself in this change. You've got to trust yourself so much that when it's time to go for it, you don't hold back, because holding back is where you get hurt, right? Everyone knows this if you played sports. The time you get injured is where you hesitate to go into that tackle hard. It's the time you hesitate to really trust yourself. It's the time your mind gets in the way of your intuition and your body. That process is critical to denounce. You have got to get to a place where you are accepting of the new failures that you're going to encounter. That, in fact, the failure is the way. It's the method. It's the process by which we get good at something. And if you think that this new thing will fail, then that's a great green light for you. That's not to say don't think about the risk. I'm not saying be brackish and silly and inconsequential. What I am saying, though, is that if you are afraid to fail, if you're not sure that you might get this correct, if you understand what letting go really looks like, the next place that you want to go where you say, hey, I would love to have more time. Why? I want to golf 6 times a week. Cool. Well, if you suck at golf, it's probably not going to feel very fun when you go from crushing it in business to playing golf 6 times a week and being bad at it. All of a sudden, your whole identity becomes, am I good at golf? And if you're not, it's going to feel like your confidence goes down. I lost my mojo. You didn't lose your mojo. You started as a beginner. And there's failure involved with that process. See, here's what I want you to know. Really, at the core, it's not that you might fail. In fact, it's that you will. And that's okay. That the next level, the new thing, the change that you want actually requires failure. It's part of the cost. If I want to get good at speaking, I have to be able to speak and speak and speak, knowing that the message doesn't always resonate. I have to be able to work on my cadence, on the flow, on my tonality. I have to learn. I have to start over. I have to bomb it. I have to fall on the ski slope. And in doing that, I then learn. I then grow. I then change. The failure for many CEOs when we build out visions starts with, hey, I thought this would be easier, or, how come I'm not doing it right? It feels overwhelming that, this change is upon me and I have to actually lean into it. I can default back to old patterns, but I have to keep choosing new ones. I thought this would be easy. It's not easy. But what I notice is that even when there's tremendous success behind this, our comfort zone with good lifestyle, with good provision financially, with a solid team, with good family, good health, it still can feel like, am I asking for too much? Am I shooting for the stars? Like when shouldn't I be happy where I'm at? And I think all of us want growth. Again, we all want more. But to do that, we have to recognize that failure is part of the growth plate. It's part of how we expand. There's going to be fear. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be tests. It's all going to happen. Going to be mistakes. Those 4 things are going to be present whenever you try to grow. So if you're afraid of that, if you're afraid of failure, you are stuck in the condition that you're in. Whatever the change is. I want to work less. Great. You're probably going to fail at that for a while. You're going to fail at whatever you do next. Or maybe you go, hey, I really want to develop my leaders. I really want to help them. I want to nurture them. I want to spend one-on-one time with them, learn their vision, learn what they're after, and try to support them. Okay, well, you're probably going to be bad at that. You may not know the questions to ask or the framework or the tools to use. Don't worry. We got you. Maybe you don't know how to nurture, how to develop. You just get impatient and keep rushing everybody, and you think everyone's working at your pace and they got to have the same dream as you. And someone might be just as happy with wanting to buy their first house as you are trying to buy your first plane. I get it. You might fail, but it does not mean that you are wrong, nor does it mean you're not enough and you're not worthy. But it is part of change. And it's the 4th pillar in this strategy to mentally reconfigure your stories. Letting go is the answer to more. The answer, if you want more, is less. That's always the answer. Cut, chop, chop. This structure and strategy is so important. And in just a really short amount of time, you can probably relate to at least one of these, if not all of them. And you know how I know that? Because I've done all of them. You and me, we're the same. My job as a coach is not to have the answers and pretend like I didn't go through the shit. My job is to say, hey, I remember this. Let's try a different way. I think you have a chance to make tremendous change this year. You have a chance to make something really special of yourself, of your enterprise, your family, your relationships, your health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of those. It's change that you want. If you want growth, then you want change. And this small reflection might really help you dial in how that starts. What structural change can you make? Can you delete, automate, delegate? Can you recognize that you don't love something anymore and identify that that's the area for change? Can you acknowledge that what you want to do next is something you're not good at? That there's a fear of being inadequate. And can you recognize that failure might be holding you back from leaning into something that you really need to do? And if you can do those things, letting go will begin to happen and growth will begin to happen. It is not an overnight thing. It is a meaningful and worthy cause. Growth is so important. And I know that where you are today is not where you will be 3 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months from now. If you make the current conversation a confrontation with yourself. And I know you can do that. If you need help with that confrontation, if you need help with building your vision so you know what you're actually aiming at, if you need help aiming in the first place, not just knowing what to aim at, but aiming in general, because your ready, fire, aim lifestyle isn't working anymore. If you are frustrated, unfulfilled, or stuck, if you have plateaued and are bored with what you're doing, vision is your answer. And I invite you to book a discovery call. Let us tell you about the program that we've got. Let us tell you about the retreats, the experiences that we have. Let us tell you about what's coming next to help you. And if you don't need help, then get to work. And if you do need help, raise your hand. Have an amazing rest of your day today. I'm so grateful that you tuned in. I love talking about this. I love helping people get out of their own way. Hit me up on Instagram if you want some of our tools or you want links to more resources. We got you. Just go to Aaron Velke, Aaron, V as in vision, ELKY on Instagram. Send me a note. Follow me. We're doing a lot of content around vision and how you can strategize, build, and aim your sights for something bigger. And I love any feedback about the podcast. Go online, write a review, please, and thank you. So follow along in either Instagram land or you can go to TikTok too, or this Apple podcast. Subscribe a little bit, give us some love, and I will see you on the next one. Remember to get out of your own way. It starts with letting go. It is time to confront your control freak. Today, we're going to talk about letting go and why it's critical for your vision to get good at surrender, to get good at allowing, and to put your hands up and release what's in them when it comes to your business, your personal life, and your direction. Now, you're going to have to buckle up because this is not going to be one where I pull punches. I want to hit you directly and I want to hit you with a lot of love.